and then one elected official in that. So the amended, the change in the ordinance specifies that there'll be still a 7-member committee, but 5 of those members are only voting on there. So the recommended actions tonight is to read this ordinance by title only, and then to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner, establishing the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we read the ordinance by title only.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
An ordinance establishing a new code section to the Washougal Municipal Code, creating a lodging tax advisory committee.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Opposed? Yes.
I would like to discuss this briefly before we take the vote.
My apologies.
Sorry, I should have been a little bit quicker. There was some concern at the last time this was brought before us with one of my fellow council members as to it being expanded and your concerns. And my question is, are your concerns met with the updated code?
With the five members?
5 voting members and 2 advisory members?
I think it's the best I can get. I'd rather have 3, but it's better than 7. I think 5 is a manageable group with a good leader. I think 7 is unmanageable without the best of leaders. And I offer this council as a good example of that. The mayor is the best of leaders, and look at the problems that we have here, so.
Opportunities.
But thank you for asking. Yes, I could live with 5.
Okay. Also, since this was just handed to us, I haven't had a chance to really look through it briefly, but the previous code actually stipulated that the one of the elected officials was going to be the chairman of the committee.
Still in there, it's a little bit different spot, but if you look at about the middle of the way, this is one elected official from the city elect as a chairperson.
Okay. Okay, so he and the chairperson is a voting member. Okay, that's what I want to make sure is that that was very specific. Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
Molly?
No, while I understand Councilmember Shoemaker's concern, I mean, I would say that honestly, as a voluntary committee, primarily voluntary citizens with no compensation, they all have very busy lives, and so I find very often in many meetings that I go to that you're never going to find a meeting where everybody can attend, but having 7 members, of which 5 are voting, would put the quorum at 3, and then those additional 2 voluntary members actually, I think, could provide valuable input to almost any meeting, so that at almost any meeting you'd have a minimum of 4 people, of which, you know, you would always have a quorum and then some. So I think it actually provides some constructive pathway for moving forward.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Parliamentary inquiry then. If that brings up a very good point that you mentioned. If I understand correctly, a quorum is determined by the number of voting members. Is that correct?
That's
Correct.
Okay, so the quorum would only pertain to those 5 then, and the 2 non-voting members would not count towards the quorum.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Other questions? I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I would like to, at this point, ask the council to entertain some initial appointments to that committee. Those appointments being from the elected body, myself and Councilmember Russell. From the entities deriving the revenue, Mr. Harry Hajari from the Best Western. From the entities who potentially would be utilizing some of the dollars, Mr. Brent Erickson from the Camas-Washougal Chamber of Commerce, and Mr. Peter Anderson from the Washougal Lions Club. There are still 2 vacant positions. One would be the second position for someone who is generating those revenues. Currently, we have made the offer to the other lodging facility that generates the taxes. They have declined. We have asked the Best Western if they would like to have a second person involved in the committee as well, but don't have an answer back. And the final vacant one, which I'm calling a community at large, I would like to have, would ask that we make that available through the newspapers and the city's website to see who can get from the general public to sit on that board.
And, Mr. Mayor, would it be in order at this time to move to confirm those appointments?
Absolutely.
Well, I move that we confirm those appointments to the Tax Advisory Committee.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Before we go straight to a vote on this one, I do want to make sure that we have no qualms with moving forward with this motion. And if you do, I'd love to hear the any concerns that anyone would have with these members.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Final item, Agenda Bill 27-10, the USDA Loan for East Street Road Improvements Project request to rescind application. Mr. Evers.
Thank you, Mayor Guard, council members. Staff is submitting a formal request to rescind the submission of the application to USDA for funds regarding the East Street Road Improvements Project. This matter originally came before council in September of '09 and was approved via resolution number 976. Due to the rescoping of the project, resolution number 985, these funds will no longer be utilized. The recommended action this evening is to authorize staff to inform USDA Rural Development that the City of Washougal no longer wishes to apply for funding for the East Street Improvements Project.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that you authorize the staff to inform the USDA that the City of Washougal no longer wishes to apply for funding for the East Street improvement projects.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to turn down the funds.
Clarification?
Yes, Mr.
This was for
Shoemaker.
the roundabout?
This was for additional funding for the original scope of the project that included the roundabout at River Road and East Street.
And therefore, that funding is not available to us because we've declined the roundabout.
We're requesting that we rescind the application and not have USDA process it. They haven't processed it to date for the additional funding when the project was up closer to $9 million.
Okay.
With it being within less than 100,000 of budget.
The reason we're doing that is because we're not eligible, having taken the roundabout out?
No, we'd still be eligible for additional funds, but we don't need the funding under the current rescope.
I'm not getting why you're turning down this money.
It's a loan
loan,
through
it's not a grant.
USDA.
Got it.
40-year, 4.4%.
That's been the tricky wording, Councilman, for the last year. Not Trevor's fault, but just loan or grant.
Sorry about that one. Other questions? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passed. We're now at the point in the agenda for any additional comments from the public for the council this evening. Barbara, I'm coming to you next.
You're probably not happy I'm back involved again, but
I'm just surprised everybody's still here.
the organization I work for had a wonderful search for their new CEO. It included the stakeholders, it included people from the management, it included